Hey everyone, welcome back to the second section of this course, creating a serverless REST API. In this section, we'll go ahead and start applying the knowledge we learned in the previous videos. Our first step will be to create a new service to house the REST API. Using our newly learned skills, we'll configure all the tools needed for the development and deployment of the application. We will also add a database connection, giving our application a way of storing data persistently. Finally, we'll jump into some coding and add CRUD methods for creating, retrieving, updating, and deleting nodes from our database. In the final lessons of this section, we will focus on keeping our code clean and easy to maintain. Let's jump right into the first video, creating the core service for a Node's REST API. This first video will focus on the creation and configuration of a new service for the REST API. We will go through the process of installing the required tools and dependencies in order to start creating a REST API. These tools include much of which we learned in the previous chapter. It will be a perfect demo for understanding everything through a concrete practical example. Let's break down what we will be doing in detail. First of all, we need to create a new service. That's a bit obvious, right? Then we need to initialize a new NPM project. This is needed to install required dependencies and plugins in order to run our app locally for development. For this app, we'll install both Serverless Offline for running the Lambda and Gateway emulation, and Serverless Dynamodb Local for running the database locally. We'll also install the required Aws Sdk, which lets us communicate with the database through our application. Lastly, we'll grab a cool database ID generator module for our app to use instead of writing our own. So that's enough talk. Let's jump into a terminal window and get started. Running SLS, let's remind ourselves about the command we need to create a new service. We need the create command. Now let's check the options it takes. Type SLS create --help. Awesome. We need the template and the path. So let's type SLS create -t AWS Node.js -p REST API and hit enter. Nice. There's our new service. Change into the newly created directory. Now we can initialize npm in order to install the needed dependencies. Just type npm init and run it. Go ahead and enter through all the prompts. Great. Now we can install Serverless Offline and Serverless Dynamodb Local. Run npm install --save dev serverless offline. Great. Now you can run the installation for DynamoDB local. Run npm install --save dev serverless DynamoDB local. This will enable us to test everything locally before deploying the REST API to AWS. Just a quick note, in order to run DynamoDB locally, you need to have the Java runtime installed on your machine. To check, just type java --version and run this. If you're not getting a positive result from this command, go ahead and install Java on your machine. I'll show you how you do it on a Linux machine real quick. Just type sudo apt-get update and wait for this to finish. To install Java, you type sudo apt-get install default JRE. This will install the Java runtime environment on your machine. This process is even simpler for Windows or Mac. You just download the respective installer from the official website and run it. It'll launch an install wizard where you just follow instructions. Great, with that out of the way, let's install the app dependencies. First, let's install the Aws SDK. This is the software development kit which contains the APIs we need in order to communicate with a database programmatically. Go ahead and type npm install -- save Aws SDK. And let's also grab the UUID module. This is the database generator. Nice, that's everything we need. Let's jump over to the code editor to configure the serverless YAML. Open up the serverless YAML file. Let's clean this up a bit. We only need to keep the things we really need at the moment. So let's delete some of the comments. And we'll keep the stage and region. This should do. At the bottom, let's add a plugins section and add the reference for serverless Dynamodb local and serverless offline. The database needs to be loaded first for it to work, so keep this above serverless offline. Great, this will do for now. Let's jump back to the terminal real quick. There's one more command you need to run for Dynamodb local to get registered by serverless. And that command is sls dynamodb install. Run this, and this command will take a few minutes, so be patient. Great, after that has installed, let's check if serverless has registered the new commands for serverless offline and Dynamodb local. Great, here we see Dynamodb, and we see offline start here as well. Great. Let's go ahead and start the Dynamodb local and test whether the database will spin up. So just type sls dynamodb start. It should spin up on localhost port 8000, which is the default one. And here we have it. Nice. We've set up all the dependencies and tools we need to continue with the development. That's more than enough for this video.